and gentlemen, last year on this show, Austin Arnold called his shot, and he predicted that the Denver Nuggets were going to be the NBA champions. And I pushed back on it. I said, I know Nikola Jokic is good. I really didn't know at that time how great he was. I needed to see it for an entire playoff run because historically in the NBA, we got to see you make it up before we anoint you the guy. And so Denver goes on that crazy playoff run last year. They pretty much dominate the conference. They win the NBA championship. This year, they're pretty much the same team, even though they're just, seated or whatever it was at third in the West. But Austin, I'm going to give you the opportunity again this year. We know how good the Boston Celtics have been in the East. I sort of feel like this is the year for them that if they don't win the title, they're not going to win the title. I don't think the East is going to be as weak as it's going to be. I think Giannis and Dame are starting to figure out a little bit. I don't think the Cavs are ready. I think Embiid being hurt is sort of taken out Philadelphia. I don't think the Knicks are there yet. This just feels like the Celtics year. But I'm going to have you call your shot again, sir. The 2024 NBA Finals champion will be.
The Los Angeles Clippers.
Oh my goodness. You, dude, you come on here, man. I did not expect that. Can I ask you this question? I'm just going to say it. How in the hell are the Clippers going to beat Denver in a 7-game series?
That's my one team that I think they may have trouble with. And I've told this to people not on here, but I've told this to people. I really believe in the fact that when you bring James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi, who you just signed to an extension, you have a force in the paint in Ivica Zubac, who, by the way, the Lakers gifted you. And you have a young up-and-coming point guard who's, I think he's going to be okay in Terrence Mann. I like how I know Russ just got hurt, but he'll be back by playoff time, they say. I like how Russ has really embodied the role of being a sixth man, being that jolt of energy that comes off the bench. Brandon, they're a cohesive unit. And you look at Tyronn Lue, he knows how to win a title. He knows how to get a team there. I really think that this is the year that the Los Angeles Clippers put the narrative of not being able to perform in the playoffs. And a lot of these players that they have, guys like James Harden, Paul George, those are guys that people inherently say that when they get to the postseason, they choke. But you have a champion, a two-time champion in Kawhi Leonard, a guy who's hungry to get a third, especially to bring one home to his city in Los Angeles. I think this is the Clippers' year. And if this, of course, is if injuries do not come into play. If they come into play, then I honestly think while it's hard to go back to back, then Denver would probably have my most realistic chance to win the West. But
That's
I
that's
really
my
do.
gut feeling. Right now, I'm going to tell you, I have put a wager down. I have the Denver Nuggets going back to back. I I
Yeah,
I
man.
don't think anybody can guard Nikola Jokic in a 7-game series and stop Denver. I just think he's too good. I think the one team that can, like maybe is Minnesota, but I think they're just too young to maybe even win a playoff. Like I think in Minnesota was the matchup with a Golden State or a Clippers or a Lakers even. I think that Minnesota and Oklahoma City, like, I think this year their case of just two young teams that don't match up well with the veteran teams.
Yeah, I don't like Minnesota this year, even though they've had a really good year. I don't know how that's going to hold up in the playoffs. Same with OKC. I feel like SGA is only going to take you so far, but I think it's just inexperience with those two teams which is why I'm low on them to not go far. And that's why I think it's going to be a Clippers Nuggets Western Conference Finals. And I'd be remiss to not throw the Suns in there, but I think the Suns are just a little past the 8 ball on this one. So I think with it being Nuggets and with it being Clippers, I think the Clippers ultimately take the series. And to sum it up, if you want my NBA Finals prediction, because I know you asked me about this before on the show a year ago, I'll say it now. I think that the NBA Finals, this is assuming no injuries.
Okay.
Get ready for this. Clippers come out of the West. I believe the New York Knicks could come out of the East. And I
Wait,
say that, and
what? Wait, what?
I say the Knicks because I really do like the move that they made to go get a 3-and-D guy like OG Anunoby. I think he's the perfect substance when he's healthy to combat a Tatum or a Jalen Brown. And I think that with New York and how they're currently constructed, their downfall, in my opinion, because I think Boston ultimately will go to the finals. But if we're assuming injuries are out of the question, I think the Knicks can definitely make a strong run and win it because you have great defenders. You have a guy who has the it factor in Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, another guy who I believe has already won a title with Toronto. Julius Randle concerns me a bit, but I love their 3-point shooting with Dante DiVincenzo. He's been very good this year as of late, and he's been a great uh, pluck from Golden State. And Josh Hart, another guy besides that triple double he had in Cleveland on Sunday, he's always been a grittier player, and I truly do think with their rebounding and their toughness that they have with Hartenstein, Jericho Simpson is an athletic young guy who can get boards. I truly do believe that if the Knicks are fully healthy in the playoffs, they could give the Celtics hell, and I think that they could even beat them in a 7-game series. But if they aren't fully healthy and they're not fully there, I do expect the Boston Celtics to be in the NBA Finals.
My pushback on that is even if they're healthy, I think Julius Randle's a number three, not a number two on a championship team. And I don't know if Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle could beat Boston in a 7-game series. By the way, I don't think Boston's making it out either. I think Milwaukee is going to come together. I said before the year that they didn't have to win the championship, but I thought they had to make the finals to make the trade worth it. And I think that Dame and Giannis, like was it a couple years ago, most people thought Giannis was the best player in the world. Now I think that mantle has been taken over by Jokic. And for me personally, Giannis took a big hit for me last year when the Bucks lost in the first round because the only game they won was the game that he did not play. And I don't want to hear the excuses of he was hurt because Jimmy Butler just outmanned him in that series because playoff Jimmy could will the Heat to the NBA Finals again this year. And I wouldn't put it past him because he's Jimmy freaking Butler when it comes to the playoffs. But I do think Milwaukee's making it out of the East. I said I think Denver does make it out of the West. I do say if a team does knock off Denver before the finals, the Clippers are interesting, but I don't trust James Harden in the playoffs. I love Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy, and I love Paul George. I think that's why they're having all this success this year because they are healthy. But I don't think that they can stay healthy enough to have a deep playoff run. I will never ever doubt LeBron and the Lakers' ability to potentially get back to the finals. I think their ceiling is about a second round team. I think they can win a matchup. But all I'm saying is, like you said, assuming there's no injuries, if a Minnesota were to somehow knock off Denver or somebody else, because I don't think the Lakers necessarily match up well with Denver, but I think they match up well with everybody else.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I'm so out on the Lakers, and it's not because of LeBron. I just think that with all the recent stuff that that team has really had to go through in terms of like, they still have to keep trying to find their mold and who are they as a team? Who are they in these big games? Every big milestone that LeBron has had to basically achieve on his own in terms of the scoring record, 40,000 points. They can't win those meaningful games, those accomplishment type games. And it concerns me about the games down the line because if you can't win at least one of those, I just don't know if I can buy into the fact that you're going to be able to do it in the playoffs. I think they don't match up really well with a team like Oklahoma City. I think Oklahoma City plays really stingy, stymie defense. Again, I know they're a young team, but I really like Chet Holmgren and I really like SGA a lot, and I just like their supporting gas as well. Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe can shoot a three ball. They have guys who can They can score. Lou Dort can shoot a three ball as well. They're a very stymied defensive team that can shoot. I just think that if the Lakers had to match up with them, they're not going to do well. I'd be a little optimistic if they had to play Minnesota because I think Minnesota and them could be a 6 or 7 game series, depending on how you want to look at that. My ultimate prediction, though, is I think the going is going to get tough for them. And I think that I don't want to sit here and say an injury will happen, but I think something will happen to this Lakers team where I don't know if they're going to even make it out of the play-in. That's just me. That's just how their season has been. They've been pretty mediocre up to this point. Um, if their backs are against the wall, I obviously won't count them out. But as of right now, I'm pretty out on them, and I just don't see a way that they can make it in unless they really turn it on here in these
So,
next 2 games.
last sort of encore question before I ask you some other sort of general NBA stuff that I want to get into. So, I think we both kind of think Boston they should make the finals. We both did not predict them to. If they don't win the title this year, what other massive drastic changes can they make? Because as I previously said, this to me feels like this is the year you got to capitalize. Oh, like Toronto did when they got Kawhi Leonard for the 1 year. Yeah, they only got him for 1 year, but they won the damn title.
I think if there were any changes that need to be made for Boston, it would probably be the front office.
That's
Because
interesting.
I
Okay.
think, like, if you're constructing this roster, okay, and honestly, I think Brad Stevens should have been fired a long time ago. He only went to the front office because I thought his ass was in the grass and he needed to find an out. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not." He's gonna pull the Jerry West. "Oh, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm just gonna go to the front office." But I think that's exactly what he did because his ass was on the line and he didn't want to get fired from the org. So I honestly think if they don't find a way to get it done this year, you may have to get rid of Brad Stevens and be like, listen, dude, we get that you're putting together a good roster. We get that you coach great teams, but there has to be some sort of factor of why we're not getting over the hump. And I honestly think it could be Brad Stevens. That's just me. That's just me going off the top of my head and trying to think of some obscure reason to why they're not getting it done. But if it's not this year for Boston, when will it be? You just don't know. I can't blame Joe Mazzulla for these playoff losses. I can't blame Jimmy Butler for going crazy last year and putting them in the coffin. I can't blame him for if they inevitably choke again. I don't know if I can blame that unless he's just making dumb ass rotation calls. I think at the end of the day, you look at your front office, you evaluate and say, "Hey, man, this is just isn't working. We're gonna have to figure out something else. We're gonna try and bring in someone else or try and elevate someone to see what's going on." But I don't know. I think that the Celtics are in a good spot right now. If they can't win it this year, there has to be a reason why. Because if they're healthy and they can't do it, Brandon, you have to just start looking around and you just gotta start facing the music at that point.
Austin, I said that after this year's NBA All-Star game, and for the record, I was never a big fan of All-Star weekend itself. I feel like the last, especially 5 years, it's really been watered down. No disrespect to Max McClung, but in my opinion, he's a G League player. He can't even make a real NBA team. I don't care that he can dunk over Shaq bending down. But I do think that this was the first year that I flat out turned off the NBA All-Star game. It was very clear early on. The players weren't even trying to play defense. Jokic is walking down the court. Luka Doncic is basically throwing up prayers. Um, and I don't know. I know the NBA is not going to get rid of the All-Star games for this weekend because it makes too much money for the league and the city. But if you got guys like Anthony Edwards coming out and saying, well, it's an all-star game, I'm not even gonna try anyway, like then you shouldn't be voted an all-star. And I don't know. The only solution I thought of, because they're not gonna do the old MLB all-star way, which I wish they would, which where the winner would get home court, but obviously people would cry too much about it and people would think it's unfair. It's not gonna happen. I think the only way you do it, you put literal money bags on the table and you tell the losers they have to give money to the winners in literal bags to create some sort of competition like the stupid in-season tournament did. I don't know how
Yeah,
you fix it.
yeah. I did not like. Listen, the in-season tournament. Before I get to the All-Star point, I thought the in-season tournament was good in terms of you actually got have guys competing. But when I look at the in-season tournament in general, um, people who say that if you're an in-season tournament champion, like that's something to add to the banners and that's something to add to someone's legacy, i.e. LeBron James. It's like, cool. I gave a piece of paper to Justin Herbert when he won the Pro Bowl MVP in what, 2021? Like that's just how it is. It's just another piece of paper that is added to your resume and saying, "Oh, great job, sport." But regardless, I do believe that if you are going to change the All-Star weekend, yeah, you're going to have to put money on the table. Make it incentivized. When you incentivize these games, it gives people a reason to care. And I think that by doing that, these players will show a little more effort and a little more clarity on why there is an All-Star weekend in general. I look at the All-Star weekend for the MLB and it's the best out of them all. That's just how I look at it because it's so hard to really mess up in baseball unless you're throwing 60-mile-per-hour pitches and they can't because they won't due to how Rob Manfred doesn't know how to just give the league and
Thank you.
viewership
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
any
we're
sort
not
of
talking
like
about baseball today with you because we
yeah.
have so much other stuff to dive into. But yeah, I mean, I said this too. Um, I don't know what the solution is, but if I'm a person in charge of running an all-star weekend, regardless of any sport, this may be unpopular because I know it's supposed to be for the fans, but I don't want fans voting for players. I think it's the worst idea they ever came up with in All Star because I think you get players that absolutely do not deserve to get in. I also think you get players that probably should deserve to get in, not get in because of fans' personal bias. If I'm running the league, the person in charge of creating all stars, they are players themselves, coaches, executives, and media members, and that's it. And the fans enjoy the product at home, what they're supposed to be, and that's fans.
I agree. I think fan voting in general is really dumb because the one year when we talk about fan voting, the one
The
year,
one year Andrew Wiggins got in the starting lineup
yeah,
is that the one you're talking
it,
about?
well, no, I'm talking about they were trying to vote in Zaza Pachulia,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah.
league shut that down. They're like, no, this guy's not an all star. Andrew Wiggins, I could have, it's like
As an
okay,
all star,
I
yeah,
like
not as a
I
star.
understand that. I understand that a little bit, but it's like Zaza Pachulia, a bench warmer. Like, no. Like that, like to me, that's not gonna happen. Like Andrew Wiggins is at least was a starter when he was voted in, which gives me a little more of a bypass on that. But still, yeah, these fans, like they try to vote people just to vote people, and I understand that. It's all a trolling game at the end of the day. But when I see if you want to try and make this better, I think media, coaches, players in the league in general should have their say on who should be where. And then you go from there. It's that simple. And you enjoy the product at hand, like you said, and also put money on the line. Just saying.
So the last sort of question for you when it comes to the NBA is I do think the NBA does have a little bit of a logistics problem. And that is as the league has become much more talented offensively, there's guys that put up 50, 60, sometimes 70 a night, and we have almost become immune to it. Um, but I do think, there's all this talk about scoring's up in the regular season. But I'm like, yes, but then why are playoff scoring still so low? It's because teams actually try and teams play defense in the playoffs. And if I'm the NBA, you're gonna get your ass kicked by the NFL most of your regular season. And now the NFL looks like they're gonna be expanding even more in the regular season, which will even more push the NBA back. I really liked the NBA when it went to the 72 game season right after the COVID year, went from December to July, pretty much dominated the whole summer. I don't know why the NBA hasn't done that. I think they need to shorten the regular season, though I know they won't because of revenue. But I'm telling you, I think if I'm the NBA starting my season in December, making it 66 games, less back-to-backs, less NFL competition during the season. My All-Star weekend can be either the week before or the week after the Super Bowl, and let my sport ride the entire spring. Let my playoffs go the entire month of June and July when I'm not dealing with the NFL at all. I think that's how you get the ratings back up and more excitement back into the game. What's your thoughts on that?
I think with ratings going back into the NBA, if we're just gonna kind of speak about it as a whole, I really do like your point that let's go ahead and make the All-Star game a week after the Super Bowl. You're still giving some relevance to some of those long weekends that, as soon as you leave football season, you're trying to add some relevance. You're trying to add some sort of poise to watching sports, and I think that that could be a very huge thing for the league if they were to do that. I think with the scheduling issues that I have seen from time to time again as of late, they need to stop the home and homes. They need to stop the home and homes, and they maybe if you don't want to stop the home and homes, you need to stop the Cavs did this early in the year. They flew out to Boston, played 2 straight games there, and then flew somewhere else. I don't like that. I don't like that at all, and I get that you're trying to not have them travel as much as you possibly can, but I just think that's lazy scheduling, and I don't get why the NBA does do that. The back-to-backs do need to be minimized. Maybe you have to expand the season. I don't know. That there are just a lot of logistics that are going in wacky ways with the league. But I guess the big thing that I could say logistically in terms of scheduling teams to play games is you need to eliminate your home and home somehow. You need to eliminate a team flying to a city, playing 2 straight games there, and then flying to another city. Another thing that I also want to touch on, I don't like how let's say for example, the Celtics go into Cleveland. Oh, we're not playing Tatum, it's a rest night. That's how you lose ratings right there. You can't have a road team pull some of their best players, especially fans that are going to the game. You can't have those road teams just pull their players unless they legitimately have a problem with them. I think that if you're going to go ahead and rest your players, you got to do it now your home court because for the fans that do buy tickets to go to those road games and for people in those local markets that want to watch these teams play, you want to see the best product of the away team because they're on the road. Sure, you can bench them at home because they see them 41 games a year.
Yep.
But I think that's another thing that could really be worked on. Obviously, again, if it's a legitimate injury like an ACL, fine. It sucks, but it's unfortunate. But like if you're just benching him and to bench him and to rest him, I don't like that at all. Fans pay money to go watch these other players play that are not on their team.
Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.